In your book, you described that after about 3 years being in prison on remand, before actually your trial happened, you escaped. You had a lot of plans to escape, and eventually one of them worked. Why was it so important for you to escape?
Well, I couldn't do an awful lot in prison to help the animals that were causing me an immense amount of grief, so the best thing I could do, as far as I could see, was find a way out so I could continue to do what I'd always done. And I think it's the right of every captive animal to find a way out of its cage, and that's what I tried to do, and eventually I succeeded in that.
You were, although the charges against you were, according to your book, part of a large conspiracy trial. They were trying to pull in lots of different people and make a huge trial against many animal rights activists. During their trial, you, as the main charged person, were actually not present because you were on the run. Did that change something for the trial and for those people?
It did, yeah. I mean, that wasn't my initial plan. I just wanted to be out of the cage they'd locked me in, but because this trial had been created around me, once I wasn't there no longer, it fell apart, and most of those other people didn't even go to prison. The whole trial collapsed, so there was a real, well, a big knock-on effect to my finding a way out of the prison cell, and it meant that other people weren't going to be locked up, other people who'd simply tried to make the world a better place as I tried to do.
After being able to run from prison, you had to live underground. How was life being wanted, being searched for, and being actually sort of, as a known person, being looked for by police?
Well, it was difficult at times because I knew at some point I would be rearrested. I didn't intend to spend the rest of my life on the run, and I carried on with my campaigning, so ultimately I knew that I would go back to prison, so that knowledge was always there at the back of my mind, so it did make living on the run a little bit uncomfortable at times, but I've got no regret with that either, and I'm proud of the fact that I achieved my aim and that I managed to spend a year free when I was supposed to be in prison.
Eventually you were, I think, more than 7 years in prison, and then you released on parole. Did you plan during those years already ahead what you were doing? Did you prepare yourself for the time outside?
Always. I mean, I've got a lot of time in prison to think about what I was going to do with my future, and one of the things I was going to do was write a book, which I did, and I've succeeded in that, which again I'm very proud of. But you've got a lot of time to think and plan your future when you're in a prison cell, and yeah, here it is, my plan realised.
When you came out, you started a number of campaigns, especially 2 of them you describe in your book, and they were very successful, against Shamrock Farm, a monkey breeder for vivisection, and against Regal Rabbits, a rabbit breeder for vivisection. Can you briefly outline what were the basic ideas and how this campaign was run?
Well, it was about keeping a constant presence at these premises where, with Shamrock Farm, for example, they were importing monkeys from the wild and sending them on to be tortured in vivisection laboratories. We wanted it to be a constant presence there, a constant reminder to these people that there was an awful lot of public opposition to what they were doing. And ultimately we achieved our aims, and we managed to close the places down by being a constant pain in the arse, you know, reminding them that people didn't like what they were doing, and we weren't going to go away until they stopped doing what they were doing.
Eventually, in 2003, you were arrested again and also put into prison for liberating mice from a vivisection lab. What was the primary aim behind that, or what did you find out in this lab?
Well, primarily it was to rescue animals from the suffering that they were going through, but also it was to expose to the public, to the media, the unnecessary experiments that were taking place in that laboratory, where we discovered they were testing cosmetics, Botox, being tested regularly, torturing small animals with Botox. Awful experiments where female animals of a few weeks of age were having this product injected into their abdomens, and they were then observed until half of them had died. That basically they were suffocated to death as their muscles seized up and their lungs seized up. Really awful, cruel experiments, which we managed to expose to the media, and as a consequence of the raid, rescue some animals from that cruelty.
Reading your book to that point, some people might ask themselves the question: you had a 14 years prison sentence, you then had 2 very successful campaigns that were very legal. Why did you then suddenly do something like this lab raid again that brought you into prison?
Well, there are only certain campaigns that would be successful, and there was only one way we could achieve what we wanted to at this laboratory where the Botox was being tested. We tried various other tactics, and the only thing that was left to me was to break in to recover the evidence that we knew was in there. You can't always do that. But at this particular lab, we managed to find access. It wasn't as secure as most of them are, and we knew where the paperwork was that we needed, which we couldn't have got any other way. Our MPs, our politicians were telling us that there was no cosmetic testing in the UK. The lab were denying that they were testing cosmetics on animals. The police weren't interested. The official animal welfare organisations weren't interested. So all that was left to us was to break in.
There's a big clampdown on activism now in England. The powers that be react now to this very successful movement and actually prosecute people for very harmless, really, and legal activity. Did you expect this kind of reaction, and what is the way forward, you think?
Well, I think we've had to accept it because we've seen throughout history that this is the reaction when campaigns for liberation struggles are successful. But it's come very quickly. It's a very young movement, and the aggression from the authorities now is quite stunning. The anger towards peaceful protesters is quite disturbing. And ultimately, I think what it's going to do is drive more and more peaceful protesters to more covert activities, if you like, and into the arms of the Animal Liberation Front. And for me, that's probably a good thing, because those actions are often the most successful.
You're now investing a lot of time in promoting your book, in going from one country to the other, like here in Austria, show the film Behind the Mask. So you have a lot of experience with the international movement. What is your view on the international movement compared to the English one, and how do you see the future?
I'm very inspired by what I'm seeing across the world. Particularly Austria is immense. The amount of things that people have achieved in this country, and the amount of vegan products that are available in supermarkets, and the progress that's been made through the political system, and the number of animals that have been released, and the laws that have been changed. It's immense. It really is. And there are campaigns like this happening in other countries now, all across the world, in Russia and China, all across North America. People are waking up to the horrible things that we're doing to other animals and to this planet. And I am very confident about the future when I meet so many brilliant people, as I've met tonight.
Lots of animal rights activists will look to you for advice. You have a very long experience, and if it's 1982, it's 25 years of animal rights activism. What would be the thing you would tell a new activist to do? What is the primary thing what they should look for, or how they should be active?
I implore that people believe in what they're doing and believe that they have the power to make a difference. We all do. It doesn't take a massive movement to make a big difference. Small numbers of people throughout history have made an immense amount of change just from believing in what they're doing. And it's not difficult, it is about belief, it really is. And seeing that there are other people of a like mind doing exactly what they're doing and bringing about big changes in the way we treat other animals on this planet.
Okay, thank you for that interview.
My pleasure, thank you.